Welcome back. This is Business Week. I'm speaking to Shuaibu Idris, former Deputy Managing Director of Dangote Flour Mills. We're talking about the challenges of manufacturing in the Nigerian industry. Shuaibu, you've painted a very, very bleak picture. And I think from the statistics I gave in the beginning in terms of manufacturing constituting less than 4% of our GDP, considering to agriculture contributes close to 45% of our GDP, manufacturing less than 4%. I think it's a bit of a reflection on the country in the sense that the country is definitely in decline. And no one sector of the economy is immune, because if you don't have good schools and you can't bring out the right people, then you don't have the skills to. So people complain of unemployment, and as you said, the problem is not unemployment, but it's
how employable are the youth?
Yeah, it's basically miseducation.
Yeah.
So if people were properly educated, then I think probably they'll be gainfully employed. So I think it's striking to see that companies have now been left with the responsibilities of training. A lot of banks have their training schools, those that can afford it. But it's not really everybody that can afford to be able to put this sort of structures in place to do skills acquisition. So there's a big challenge. You talk about the roads. Roads are not working, electricity. So all these basic things, if we don't have them, then we don't have a conducive environment for manufacturing. Now, Shuaibu, let's take a look at this in a bigger context. And I want to take a look at this from the perspective that you've run for political office for the governor of Kaduna State, not the first time, but also the second time recently. So obviously you've had some experiences and you have a desire to be able to make a change. And it's clear that government policy has a major impact on make or break in terms of the direction we need to do. That if government has consistent policies, as you've said, then we can create the so-called quote-unquote enabling environment. If you were in government and you became the governor of Kaduna State, and with everything that you have gained from the banking industry, from the manufacturing industry, from the private sector, what do you need to tinker to make things work?
I think basically 2-3 areas that one will love to see, if you like, a state of emergency declared within the first 2-3 weeks of taking over the reign of affairs of, say, Kaduna State. First and foremost, the civil service. The civil servant today, in most part of Nigeria, not just within one state, even at the federal, they are no longer civil. They are evil servants. Most of the time, they whittle down government policies. They stunt growth. And one has to confront, that malice head on to solve it. Without solving it, you will never, without being able to address the challenges, that the civil servant will give you, you may never be able to succeed by any administration. And I think, Mr. President, and all the governors that are new and incoming, they need to look at the civil service and see how best to rationalize it, how best to reorientate it, how best to revolutionize and change the civil service. Because the bedrock of your success as a governor or as a chief executive is your human capital. And the human capital is not just the ministers or the commissioners. It's the permanent secretaries, the directors, the deputy directors, assistant directors, down the ladder.
The permanent infrastructure.
Yeah.
So it comes back to the issue of the attitude again that you talked about.
You need to tune the frequency of your personnel to operate in tandem with your own frequency. It's extremely important. Okay. Then you can now be looking at other infrastructures that will follow. Electricity supply. If River State could have an independent power supply, if Lagos State can have an independent power supply, why not say Kaduna State, even if it is jointly with Kano State, so that industrial zone can have an independent power supply, that can be dedicated to the industries. Then, of course, the issue of railways. In these days of public-private partnership, why wouldn't this government begin to have a partnership with maybe an Indian concern, with a Chinese concern, to be able to say, let's run a railway line that you could charge a little more than the ordinary price and be able to run, operate, and transfer subsequently to the state. These are things that could be done conveniently. And I think the other issues, basic issues of water, security, and then the education, they will naturally dovetail as you solve the first and the major problems of having your personnel to operate at the same frequency. Most of the time, governors and presidents fail because they are working across purposes with the civil servants.
Interesting. But let's take a look at this issue about trying to create this reverse, because I think from this discussion, in nailing down, one of the key areas that has failed manufacturing in this country is government policy. So the question I'm trying to pose to you now is that why things that have worked everywhere, why when we bring them here, we can't make it work?
No, Cleo, I don't think it will be fair to Nigeria and to Nigerians to say things that have worked in so many other societies are not working in Nigeria. The example you gave of the Lekki concession or the Lekki road, I think is you're taking the extreme example. If I were to look at the other angle of the issue, is look at what Bicotany has done with the Lagos Airport project. It's similar to the Lekki Road concession. Is the Lagos Airport project not working? Babalakin was given.
Is it working?
To my knowledge, it is, because.
Does it have a functional? Have you seen the air conditioning?
No.
Sorry, excuse me, Shuaibu. I just want to ask a question. You see, I look at it that an airport is a piece of basic infrastructure anywhere. We don't have to. Yes, the structure is there. They've built the carports and everything, but the cost of that, the issues with the banks, the financing, there's so many. Why can't we just? It's a noble project. They've got it off the ground. They've done it. It's up there.
Thank you.
The question,
at least thank you for recognizing that.
You have to. But the question you ask yourself now back is, okay, well, at what cost was it done? And basically now, but then the question is, should it be surrounded in any controversy? You see, when we want to do things, it's always best to do it properly. That's the way I see things. And yeah, the airport is there. You go by, there's a new airport, but then sometimes you walk into that airport, and one thing that struck me was that when you want to design an airport in a tropical area like this, there are ways.
You shouldn't have enclosure.
What are issues with the air conditioning? You go there, you have standing units. Okay, well, maybe it's Nigerian style. So people say, well, maybe that's Nigerian style. But I know in other places, you're able to design proper air conditioning systems. Yes, it might not be 100% perfect, but like you've said, it's functional. And it's done and it's been accomplished.